So in the last video, I was able to get one side of the hunting blind actually hung with metal, but the problem I ran into is that my metal overhangs the edge of the blind. So I brought out my battery-operated DeWalt multi-tool, which made pretty easy work shaving off the overhang. Next, I plan to hang the opposite side of the blind siding. And I ran into the issue that it had just gotten done snowing a little bit, and the siding was actually really slimy feeling. So I had a hard time holding onto it and anchoring it and keeping it level. This took way longer than it should have. I should have just ran up to the house and gotten a clamp and clamped this in place. But stubborn me just tried and tried and tried until I finally got a couple screws in to anchor it in place. So once I got this panel in place, I jumped over to the front of this side and got the second panel hung up here. There's a little bit of overlap that I'm going to have to cut out eventually when I make my windows, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. It was about 33 degrees today, so it was snowing on and off. As you can see in the background, I had a little bit of a fire going. Not as big as last time because it wasn't as wet or chilly as in my last video. Once I got this piece anchored and in place, I went down the back and the side and got it held up there pretty good. And now I'm going to anchor in the back piece of this hunting blind. This will give me 3 sides and a nice windbreak for when I'm working up here. Got this first piece anchored on the top. I've got to move the ladder around so I can do some off to the back side on the bottom because I can't reach that very well. And then I'll put the last piece of siding on the back side here. And that last piece is unfortunately going to be the piece that I have to cut and shave off the edge. This last piece is a little bit cleaner than the piece that it's overlapping, but it does have a decent size dent and tear in the bottom of it, so I didn't want to have that be part of the actual blind and the siding structure, so that's my overhang that I'm going to end up cutting off on the side here. Put a couple screws in the bottom, and then I'll get out that multi-tool and start shaving the edge of this off. So far, this is going together really well for me. I ran into a few obstacles, but nothing that I couldn't overcome with the right tools and a little bit of stubbornness. You can see that multi-tool is just ripping right up the edge there. Super easy. It takes me somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes to cut through the entire length of this. So that's not too bad at all and not much of a setback. I've got to cut the rafters for the roof because I want to get that on today to help keep everything inside the blind a little more dry. This DeWalt battery operated saw does pretty good work with that. I tried dragging extension cords out here so I could actually have my table saw in the woods, but it just drains too much juice and doesn't have the power when I hook that many extension cords together. Gotta slide this roofing up through here, and again, this is all used material from different things I've had laying around the farm that I'm no longer using, so it's a nice cheap way to reuse some of this stuff and help keep it from just piling up or rotting away. I've got that first panel nice and square on there, so just have to anchor that down, and then I'll shimmy down and get the second panel. This one has a little bit tighter of a hole that it has to squeeze through, but it's pretty flexible, and I managed to get it up there just fine. Now, once I squeeze up onto the roof, and I put a few screws in the roof, I go all the way along the edge and across the center, and I realize I don't have a good way to get down because I do have overhang, and I just couldn't figure it out for a while. I have a ladder propped up on the back of the blind. I ended up very carefully shimmying down the back side and dangling off so that I could hang over that ladder and work my way down. And here is a quick look of what I was able to accomplish today. And my next day off in a couple days, I hope to get the last side of this on and hopefully frame in doors and windows. There are a few little pinholes where screws had gone through into the previous fixture that these were on. I'll just get some material to fill those gaps in with to help prevent the rain from coming through or the wind from coming through. That will not be a big deal at all. Once things dry out a little bit and I get this completely finished, I'll come in and clean the sides off here, and I'll sweep out the floor that's also pretty dirty. Right now, this is the only direction you can view out of the blind because I have solid panels on the walls. So this will be my view out the one window that faces to the south. And you can see, I can see off in the distance pretty far right here. There's Willow down there playing around. I think she's chasing after a mouse. So once I got the siding on here, it really sturdied up the whole fixture, and I'm pretty happy with the way this has gone so far.